Sarah, two parts of the Comey question regarding the interview the president just gave. First of all, isn't it inappropriate for the president of the United States to ask the FBI director directly if he is under investigation?
No, I don't believe it is.
But one of these conversations, the president said, happened at a dinner where the FBI director, according to the president, was asking to stay on as FBI director. Don't you see how that's a conflict of interest? The FBI director is saying he wants to keep his job, and the president is asking whether or not he is under investigation?
I don't see that as a conflict of interest, and neither do the many legal scholars and others that have been commenting on it for the last hour. So no, I don't see that as an issue. Shannon?
And Sarah, the other thing I wanted to ask you about is, I asked you directly
We're
yesterday.
bumping up to 3, I think, now.
This is a different subject related to Comey. I asked you directly yesterday if the president had already decided to fire James Comey when he met with the Deputy Attorney General and Attorney General. And you said no. Also, the Vice President of the United States said directly that the President acted to take the recommendation of the Deputy Attorney General to remove the FBI Director. Sean Spicer said directly it was all him, meaning the Deputy Attorney General. Now we learn from the President directly that he had already decided to fire James Comey. So why were so many people giving answers that just weren't correct? Were you guys in the dark? Was the Vice President misled again, as happened?
I know you'd love to report that we were misled, and we want to create. Hold on, Jonathan. I let you finish and read off every single one of those statements. So unless you want to trade places, I think it's my turn now. I think it's pretty simple. I hadn't had a chance to have the conversation directly with the president to say. I'd had several conversations with him, but I didn't ask that question directly. Had you already made that decision? I went off of the information that I had when I answered your question. I've since had the conversation with him right before I walked on today, and he laid it out very clearly. He had already made that decision. He'd been thinking about it for months, which I did say yesterday and have said many times since. And Wednesday, I think, was the final straw that pushed him, and the recommendation that he got from the Deputy Attorney General just further solidified his decision. And again, I think reaffirmed that he made the right one.
But was the Vice President in the dark too? This is important. Was the Vice President in the dark too?
Nobody was in the dark, Jonathan. You want to create this false narrative. If we want to talk about contradicting statements and people that were maybe in the dark, how about the Democrats? Let's read a few of them. You want to talk about them? Here's what Democrats said not long ago about Comey. Harry Reid said Comey should resign and be investigated by the Senate. Senator Chuck Schumer said, I don't have confidence in him any longer. Senator Bernie Sanders said it would not be a bad thing for the American people if Comey resigned. Nancy Pelosi said Comey was not in the right job. Former DNC chair Debbie Wasserman Schultz said that she thought Comey was no longer able to serve in a neutral and credible way. President Obama's advisor Valerie Jarrett reportedly urged him to fire Comey. Just yesterday, Representative Maxine Waters said that Hillary Clinton would have fired Comey. If you want to talk about people in the dark, our story is consistent. The president is the only person that can fire the director of the FBI. He serves at the pleasure of the president. The president made the decision. It was the right decision. The people that are in the dark today are the Democrats. They want to come out, they want to talk about all of these, they love Comey and how great he was. Look at the facts. The facts don't lie. Their statements are all right there. I think it's extremely clear that, and frankly, I think it's kind of sad. In Washington, we finally had something that I think we should have all been able to agree on, and that was that Director Comey shouldn't have been at the FBI, but the Democrats want to play partisan games, and I think that's the most glaring thing that's being left out of all of your process stories. John Roberts.
Sarah, you said from the podium yesterday that Director Comey had lost the confidence of the rank and file of the FBI. On Capitol Hill today, the acting director of the FBI, Andrew McCabe, directly contradicted that. What led you in the White House to believe that he had lost the confidence of the rank and file of the FBI when the acting director says it's exactly the opposite?
Well, I can speak to my own personal experience. I've heard from countless members of the FBI that are grateful and thankful for the president's decision, and I think that we may have to agree to disagree. I'm sure that there are some people that are disappointed, but I've certainly heard from a large number of individuals, and that's just myself, and I don't even know that many people in the FBI.
And if I could, just to what you were saying about the Democrats. Clearly, they didn't like James Comey too much after the October 28th pronouncement that he was reopening the investigation into Hillary Clinton's emails. Their point now is that the timing is different. that this was in the middle of an investigation. Do they have a point?
Not at all. And I think Mr. McCabe made that point far better than I could today when he said that there's been no impediment to the investigation. And as I said before, any investigation that was taking place on Monday is still taking place today. So I think that's, again, another sad story by the Democrats that they're trying to peddle. Mara.
Thank you. Another comment from the hearing today. The acting Deputy Attorney General said, McCabe said that he considers the investigation into Russian meddling in the election to be highly significant. In the past, the president has said that the investigation was a hoax, and he's questioned even recently whether maybe it wasn't Russia, it might have been China. Does the president consider this investigation to be highly significant?
Look, I think he would love nothing more for this investigation to continue to its completion. I think one of the reasons that the hoax component is the collusion component that has been the false narrative that you guys have been pushing for the better part of a year. I think that's the piece that he is repeatedly talking about being the hoax.
But in terms of the threat to national security, does he take that seriously? Does he think that's significant? Putting aside the collusion question.
Of course he takes national security seriously. I mean, to even hint that he doesn't, I think is to misunderstand this president completely. From the very moment that he stepped onto the campaign stage to the day that he took the oath of office to become president, he has talked about national security. He's made that one of the biggest priorities in the administration. You just saw Tom Bossert here talking about cybersecurity on all fronts, whether it's securing the border, whether it's protecting people abroad here. The president has been focused on national.
During the election was a threat to U.S. national security.
You know, I haven't had the chance to ask him about that. I think we're still waiting on the final conclusion of that investigation.
He doesn't know.
Look, I think any time we have somebody interfering with our election, that would be considered a problem, and I think the president would certainly recognize that. Matthew?
Two questions. First, as has been mentioned, Vice President Pence yesterday said the firing was based on the recommendation of the Attorney General and Deputy Attorney General. We know now that that's not true. Was the Vice President misled again, or did he mislead the American people?
I believe I've answered that question. Thank you.
If you have, I don't think I caught it, because the Vice President said yesterday that the President chose to accept and support the decision of the Deputy Attorney General and Attorney General.
He certainly accepted the Deputy Attorney. Yeah, but that doesn't mean that he wouldn't still accept his recommendation. I mean, they're on the same page. Like, why are we arguing about the semantics of whether or not he accepted it? They agreed. I mean, I'm not sure how he didn't accept the Deputy Attorney General's recommendation when they agreed with one another.
So if I may just switch topics slightly, if the president knew he was going to do this, why ask for those memos to begin with? Why not just fire Comey? Why have these memos put out and then explain that he did it because of the memos, but then say that he was going to do it either way? I'm confused as to why we even got those memos.
Look, I think he wanted to get the feedback from the Deputy Attorney General, who the director of the FBI reports to. Again, it further solidified the decision that he had made. The only person that can fire Comey was the president. He made that decision. It was clearly the right one, as evidenced by all of the comments, both by House and Senate Democrats, Republicans, and many people within the FBI. I think instead of getting so lost in the process, did this happen at 12:01 or 12:02? Did he fire him because he wore a red tie or a blue tie? He fired him because he was not fit to do the job. It's that simple. This shouldn't be a complicated process. The president knew that Director Comey was not up to the task. He decided that he wasn't the right person in the job. He wanted somebody that could bring credibility back to the FBI. That had been lost over the last several months. The president made that decision. He made it. He moved forward. It was the right one. I don't think that, the back and forth makes